Hi, this is Loci from Beta Folders. This is the second in a series of videos on how to play the coronavirus puzzles in Foldit. And in this one we're looking at puzzle 1808, which expires in just under 2.5 hours, but we're expecting that there'll be another puzzle in the series starting shortly after that. In the previous video we looked at the view options and enabling the advanced GUI in Foldit, and a little bit on how you move things around in Foldit. And we also looked at the parts and pieces that we're seeing on the screen here. So once again, this kind of gray thing up here at the top is actually part of the coronavirus. It's part of the spike protein in the coronavirus that attaches to human cells. And that's a key part of how the virus infects human cells. And then the part down here at the bottom is the binder part that we're going to design. And what we hope to do is get a binder that will be a good protein on its own and will also hopefully attach to the coronavirus part. So let's get started on that. And I'm just going to go at top speed here and not necessarily going to explain every single step in detail. What I want to do, and what I often do in a design puzzle, is put together a bundle of helixes. So if you have done the Foldit intro puzzles, you'll probably know that a helix is a spiral. It looks kind of like a spring, maybe, and it's a very common shape in proteins. And one other thing about a helix is that it also scores pretty well in Foldit. So what I want to do today is put together a bundle of 3 helixes and get them lined up next to each other in a nice way, and then we'll do some things to that. So kind of the first thing I want to do is find one of the ends of the part that we're supposed to be designing. So I'm just going to right click on the background and drag, and hopefully we'll find an end. And I'm left clicking on the background to rotate things, and so there's an end. Now one trick that we may not have covered in the intro puzzles is the tab key. So if I hover over the protein here and hit tab, that's going to reveal some information about that spot in the protein, also known as a segment. So it's the segment information window. It's going to give me the segment number, and it's going to give me the amino acid, isoleucine in this case, that's at that segment. And sometimes if the scientists are talking, they'll also use the term residue to describe what we call a segment in Foldit. So it's called a residue because it's what's left over after one amino acid gets joined up with another, and it's no longer quite the acid it was anymore, but it's a residue instead. So, okay, a little bit of technical jargon there. I've developed a plan for my 3 helix bundle, and I'll show that here. And basically I'm going to make one helix of length 23, second helix of length 23, and a third helix of length 21. And I just happen to know, and I've done a little testing before this video, and so I happen to know that that'll be a pretty good starting point, and hopefully we can get something that will actually score well in Foldit. We're down to just over 2 hours left on this puzzle, so got to get going on that. So let's get started with that. Now my first helix starts at segment 119, so I'm going to move the segment information window over there. And so then to start making a helix, I'll go into structure mode, which lets you assign secondary structure. It doesn't actually change the shape of anything. So the keyboard shortcut 2 is how you get in structure mode. I think we covered that in an intro puzzle. So I'm going to hover over segment 119, and I'm going to right click and say assign helix. That makes it a little blob. Okay. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Again, I'm holding shift and dragging on the background. And then I'm going to hover and use the tab key to see where I am. So 136, 141, got it. So I'm going to once again right click and assign helix. So now I have those blobs at either end of my helix. And I'm going to left click on the starting end. Could go in either direction, but I'm just going to drag between there and segment 141. Yep, okay. So that's gotten the helix marked. Now let's change the shape. To do that, we have to go back into pull mode. Once again, nothing on the actions menu or anything like that, but just keyboard shortcut 1 for pull mode. Then I right-click and get the famous pie menu or wheel menu, and I'm going to click Ideal SS and stand back. Okay, so that's made that first helix into an ideal shape. It's a perfect helix. Now I happen to know that I want to leave 3 loop sections, no particular shape, between my helixes, and then I'm going to start my next helix here at segment 145. And I'm just going to time-lapse it, but we'll go through the same thing. We'll go into structure mode, we'll mark the helixes, and then we'll idealize the 2 remaining helixes and see what we've got and go from there. So we're going to speed this up quite a bit. Okay, we are back. And let's zoom in on this one. And so we've got our 3 helixes, and they're not exactly pointing in the same direction, so I'd like them to be all lined up next to each other in a nice little kind of triangular bundle. So to do that, I'm going to use the cut feature, also known as cut points. And I'm back in pull mode, so I'm going to right-click on one of the segments in the loop part between 2 helixes. So right-click, get the wheel menu, then you see there's a cut option here. So I'm going to click on that, and when I do that, you get a nice yellow cut point between the 2 helixes there. What I want to do next is use the move tool. I'm going to click on the helix that's cut off from the other 2, and I'm going to start by using this curved arrow. So I'm just left-clicking on that curved arrow, and I'm going to swing that one a little bit more parallel to the others. And I'm going to drag on the background to rotate, and I'm going to use the curved arrow again to move it down in that direction. So that's one trick here in Foldit, is that you kind of have to keep rotating to see what's really going on in 3 dimensions. So I'm going to start the move tool again and curved arrow once again. Okay, then here the purple cross, I'm going to hold down the control key, hover over that purple cross, and drag a little bit. Okay, so that's getting a little bit more parallel, so a little bit more tweaking with the move tool, and move that. So I'm going to call that pretty good. Now you notice that the cut point has turned blue here too. I'll turn off the move tool. So blue cut point is bad. The ends of the cut are a little bit too far apart, and you won't be able to close this cut point just by clicking on it. So I can fix that up right now. Actually, I'll bring up the move tool again, hold down the control key, and use the purple cross to move things just a little bit closer. Yeah, that didn't work. So we'll try a little bit more. So it can be a little bit finicky here. There we go. So we got the helix to turn yellow. And that's also a clue that probably things are in a good position. But we're not going to worry about that cut point right now. What we'll do instead is another little time-lapse section. So we'll go up here. We'll make a second cut between the other 2 helixes. And then we're going to go, through the magic of television, speed things up a little bit and get 3 helixes that are nicely lined up. Okay, so that I'd describe as not too bad. I might want to move this one just a little bit over that way. And we'll rotate it. There we go. So that looks pretty good. That's more or less what I was shooting for. So the next thing I want to do is just try the mutate option. So I'll open up my actions menu here. Click on actions. And I'm just going to select mutate here from the actions menu. And we'll let this run for a minute, but then we're going to cut, and we'll come back in a few minutes once things have had a chance to mutate quite a bit. And what this is doing is just trying different amino acids for each position. And you can see right away that the orange amino acids, the isoleucines we had on the outside, are turning into other blue amino acids. And those are good to be on the outside. The blue ones like water. The orange ones are more like oil and don't like water. So we're just going to let this run a while, and I'll check back in a few minutes. Okay, we're back. It's been about 5 minutes, nearly 6 minutes now. We've gone through 5 cycles of mutation, and probably not going to find any better mutations at this point. So I'm going to stop the mutate tool. Then I'm going to go over to the menu and do a quick save solution and give it a name and click save. That gives me an easy way to get back to that solution if I want to later on. So next thing is go back to the actions menu, and we're just going to try shake sidechain here for a minute because we didn't do that to begin with. And we'll let that run for a second. Okay, so we have gone to... Oop, I did wiggle sidechains. No wonder it was so fast. Okay, I wanted shake. So we'll do shake sidechains instead. Okay, once again we speeded that up a little bit. We'll stop the shake. And now I'm willing to try a wiggle and just see what happens, but let's zoom in here. So here in the middle we've got some orange side chains on the one side, but we got some blue side chains on the other side, and we're not scoring really well here yet. But let's just give it a wiggle and see what happens. I start to move apart a little bit, so gives us a little bit more room. And the score has now more than doubled. We're up to 10,000 or so. We'll just give this a little bit more time to wiggle. Okay, now we notice that the counter is starting to spin here very rapidly, so we're going to stop that. We'll do one more cycle of shake, just because we can. One more cycle of wiggle. Okay, that starts to spin right away. So what I'm going to do next is close the 2 cut points. Now they're both in yellow. If they were blue, I'd have to do some moving things around to allow them to be closed, but I can just click on one to close it, lose a few points. Click on the other one down here at the far end, close that, lose a few more points. And let's just try wiggle again. Okay, now the nice thing about this is that my bundle isn't flying apart yet. My score is still 10,000, so you can see that a score of 16,004 is leading the pack right now. So a little bit off the mark there, but there's one other thing that we can do. Up here under objectives, you notice that all my filters, the things which change the score, are in white, and that's because I've clicked on this toggle all button, so I've turned those off just to speed things up. And this is a feature in the advanced GUI that we looked at in the first menu. Without the advanced GUI, you don't get to turn the filters off, but I've turned them off just to make things a little smoother and make the shakes and wiggles go a little bit faster. So I'm going to toggle all and run all. Okay. So there, the red line through my score has disappeared. All my filters have values there. I'm still a little low on the core existence here. So you can kind of see that the one Helix is kind of sticking out a little bit. So it's not covering the other two as well as it can. But that's probably good enough for now. So that demonstrates that doing something simple like a 3 Helix bundle can get you a reasonably good score and fold it pretty quickly. There's a lot more that we can do to work on this, but then in the one after this, we will cover another cycle of Mutate and some other things that we can do to bring our score up even higher, hopefully before this puzzle ends in 1 hour, 43 minutes. So that's all for the moment. Stay tuned for that next video.